Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, the 15th of December, 2022, and I didn't get a video out yesterday, but there was a lot that I was looking through or trying to look through, and so I was looking at an interview again of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was with another guy, and they were discussing how it would be impossible for the sun to be any other shape other than a globe because of how it reflects a perfect circle in what I'm calling a reflection, like a being reflected from, I believe, to be the yin and yang symbol, objects that are closer within the atmosphere but closer to the center of the world and what we're told, and not outside the firmament or dome or whatever you want to call it, and that it would be impossible with any other shape. And I've actually debunked that before, and I've shared this on videos on like countless social media platforms. And YouTube, though, but my account's been deleted, 3 times now. Even my LinkedIn, I'm on round 3. And so, but yeah, where I was showing reflections with my crystal pyramids. Actually, why didn't I bring this stuff? I have props. If I'm not going to show like the videos, and if I'm just going to show the links, then I can just give you the props. And so, like this pyramid, and yes, there is a like an object within, but I also have another crystal pyramid where there isn't one, and I also have a sphere. Like I have a globe, a clear one, and so I've attempted to do reflections off of all of these, even where I do the reflections upside down, forward, sideways. And this is where I was seeing like all of the different types of reflections on my walls or my ceilings, and how like with the globe, I'm actually not able to reflect any rainbows or like the sacred geometric patterns, and with the circles, and this shape also being something that I've shared on my social media, but how even this is shown in other sacred geometric forms, depending on how you twist and turn the crystal pyramid, the clear pyramid, and then with circles being larger, more expanded, the further out the light was being reflected, and more concentrated and smaller, the closer it was, right? And so this is why as well, during the wintertime, even though the sun and moon appear closer, in certain areas, it could possibly be because of that, and doing the whole Analema pattern through the skies, and not like this circular, whatever you want to call it, orbit that we're being told. Well, I'm sorry, that it is a circular orbit. It's not like where the moon is like rotating around the like the Earth on its own, like with gravity pulling it in, and the sun being able to impact all the planets, and like it's all misleading information. But anyway, so my point to that was that on the it's actually the opposite. Like you can't possibly, without any point, like a way to have a point, you can't project circles. And so that in itself should be enough for people to see that that what's being reflected in the sky above us is clearly not something that to me, it wouldn't be something that's spherical. And if it was something that would be spherical and clear, there would have to be something within it, like either either a pyramid, triangle, or circular, sorry, or square shape within it, and something that would be 3-dimensional at the very least in nature, to be able to reflect that 2-dimensional reflection. And so look at for yourself, buy these things. You can get all of this stuff for under $20. And I have magnifying glasses. I've done like the heat tests and the reflection from like light sources. So like that's the big thing too. Like I've even shown like sacred geometric patterns in bathtubs, and how like even with the different temperatures within the water, how it's easier or harder to see these like again like these circular lights being reflected in the water. But again, these are circles, they're not globes, right? Like this is a circle. It's not a good one. It's not a perfect one, but I also have a geometry set. And if I wanted to do like a circle, I would take a compass or whatever you want to call it, those things, and do the twisty thing, and yeah. So yeah, and they're even talking about, I even still till this day, I get people that just completely shut out anything I say when I discuss the possibility of this flat plane, like in this simulated multi-dimensional reality that's being like run by electrical magnetic frequencies, waves, particles, whatever you want to call it. and how even with crepuscular rays and lighthouses and again these like light tests and laser tests that I've done, this proves that like the angle that even like the rays of the sun, for example, would be hitting the Earth. It just doesn't make sense with the distance that they say it is, and they have not proven it. How can they've not proven yet that the sun is 93 million miles away? They're talking about like these like zoomed out lenses and these like these more advanced observation posts and stuff like that they're able to get these images captured. It's all a lie, and even the guy that does that shares or distributes the like these CGI overlay like manipulated pictures, he's even admitted that that they're edited. And look at fisheye lens. When people say that when they take pictures, like they see a curve or like or like whatever you want to call it, like the lens is curved. And I've shared a video as well, and I'll put it actually probably in the description box as well. But how even our eyes, right? It's the way they're designed. It's for like it's only like balanced when visualizing like this horizon on a flat plane, and when it's in balance, you get things like vertigo and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But so yeah, like we haven't been like no one's proved that the sun is somehow 93 million miles away. And anyone that I ask too about information like prove that the Earth is a globe or prove space exists and prove the planets look like that, like when I'm telling you like the tactics that they use, and when you take away the convex or the fisheye lens, then you see the flat surface, or when you reverse it or turn the camera upside down, then the curve is the other way, and that's why they're getting better at hiding this information and censoring it, or going back and forth on their when they're showing these live feeds and going like with fake, such basic primitive level like designs of like these spacecraft like going through and saying like, oh, this is the flight path that they're taking. No, it's not. This is the flight path that is taking. This is what I show you. It goes up, doesn't leave the atmosphere, and then goes back down. And I've even shown like the sploosh or whatever you want to call it with looks to me like very similar to like when like surfers are on waves or whatever you want to call it, just bouncing off the water and stuff like that. Like this is all, and there's even been tests done with independent scientists where they've had these drones or whatever you want to call it that went as high up as its capabilities allowed, 73 kilometers or something like that, I believe. And there was a sploosh sound, like some kind of like a viscous, or what do you want to call it, clear fluid of sorts that stopped it from going further, and then went back down almost in exactly the same place that you would expect. And that's another important point too, like that I discuss about Coriolis effect, and how like even with snipers I know, or people like that are in hot air balloons and stuff like that, there's no spin to factor in for any of this stuff. And even with pilots, right? If the Earth was spinning at like 1,000 miles per hour, and by the way, do you know that the Earth spins at 1,000 miles per hour or around that? Because so this is for the people that are trying to still dismiss possible flat Earth. But again, this is a simulation anyways, like I've said. But did you know the distance that people are claiming that like the sun is from us? And can you prove it? Because they can't even prove it. And do you know the actual rotation of the Earth? I do, and maybe I'll leave that for you to guess. I've also said this on previous videos. And really take a look, consider this stuff. Is there any evidence of molten lava at the core? Is there any evidence of a core? Or that there's molten lava? And again, even with like calling things magma, it's very interesting to me with the magnetism in the name, and how that is like at the center of the Earth, like the Mount Meru, or there's so many different names for it. How this is what people are showing from like even ancient maps, like Mercator's maps, and so many other maps from people that were actual experts and astronomers, mathematicians, philosophers and experts and well-respected Mercator. And if you don't know Mercator, yet again, why are you refuting or trying to dismiss my claims when I've put in like hundreds of thousands worth of research, like not only through like looking at theories and trying to find ways to simulate and or debunk or and then going out. I have literally traveled the world and seen like all these different like structures, like whether it be like churches where there's like even like with the covering up, like it's so blatant of like different like religions and occult groups or whatever you want to call it, how they try to take over different cities or areas, during different cycles, and we're doing it again here in Canada, and it's close to like the tipping point, and it's been very tense, very stressful, and I feel like Stuart Little, or whatever you want to call it, that's trying to like warn people again here that that things are like there's things that we need to prevent, things that have happened multiple times throughout Canadian history, but throughout history of the world, and how people are so distracted with all these intentional, deliberate distractions that we're not that people are not looking at, again, like how this has been like throughout history, things that have been constantly repeated, like with like such a high degree of accuracy that again, like it honestly keeps me awake at night. And yeah, it's like really early in the morning because I'm trying to get this information out to everyone in a way that is more manageable, because I always, from even before 7 a.m. onwards, it's been nonstop for 4 years now, but now it's on a heritage site. The like the drilling and the blasting like through the bedrock, and the covering up of old ancient history, not realizing that the stone structures that are in place, that are very gorgeous in design and would withstand mud floods that we've had before and liquefaction events that we've had before within Canada, within the Ottawa area, and these really fast, like high pressure, high heat fires, or whatever you want to call it, that have like wiped out entire civilizations before, that were hundreds of thousands of people during like the more like primitive times here, and then upwards of millions of people during like the more advanced periods, where we had like bigger people that were living longer, possibly still in certain areas of the world that are hidden from us. These people are still existing, and there's even a lot of proof that even in the North Americas, where people are or were living to be like hundreds of years old, and discussing that this had a lot to do with the environment that they were living in was like a lot less toxic and harmful than it is now, and people weren't consuming as much or drinking as much anything, and so there was periods of fasting during like full moon periods, or certain like phases of the moon, and they were very much aware of frequencies and vibrations, and utilizing those in their designs, right? So like, who built the like the Parthenons and the Colosseums and the pyramids, and these the cathedrals and the mosques and the palaces, and the like all and so many different like parliamentary buildings throughout the world, and then even like these like huge like pillar areas, right, where there's these vast pillars that are miles and miles wide, and this is all over the world, and I've seen these for myself too, not only in well, I was going to say North America, but also in Mexico. Mexico is North America. Anyway, I was going to say like in North America, but also in Europe and multiple other areas. And also interesting of note is that the Bahamas was part of Florida. That's something that I actually didn't know, and so that was on Andreas Zertis' channel or show just yesterday or the day before. He brought on a very educated doctor / scientist that lives in Florida, and they were discussing like the old history stuff, and how there's like fluid and water passages like that connect to the Baltics, and that is stuff I did know. I do track wind direction and current flow, and I have for years, and I even showed that during the when we had that hurricane like in Canada and in Florida, and it was also impacting other areas on the other coast, to what I believe made sense on a flat plane, and how it's laid out Mercator's map, and like these older maps, more advanced maps that showed again like Mount Meru, a magnetic mountain within the center of the earth that looks like there's a circle inside of it, that leads me to believe that there's and other people, that there's a hole within it, so like a volcano or whatever you want to call it, that has like a plasma, whatever you want to call it, coming out. And yeah, so it's very, like, I would love it if people would take a look at this stuff before they just completely dismiss it as being ridiculous, because look, I have refuted Bill Nye the Science Guy, and he's on the record too, like he's not able to even like discuss or explain like a lot of the science that he's trying to discuss, unless he has cue cards in front of him. And the same thing with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He doesn't even know anything about gravity. And now he's someone else that talked about the curvature too, how it's impossible to see the curve of the earth, no matter how advanced our technology here on Earth. Like, that's again, like, why are not people like red alert, you know what I mean? And he was saying that even if you go 63, miles up, in the atmosphere, that's still not enough to see a curve. Well, then how did we prove it? When apparently it was only Orville and Wilbur Wright within the early 1900s or whatever you want to call it, that like, or 1800s, that created aircrafts, by the way, more advanced designs that have existed and like for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And this is on a lot of like old like stone and or like ancient hieroglyphs and this could be like made up stuff too, right? But it's really hard to refute when like we're constantly uncovering and like different sites like all over the world that are more advanced and larger in structure and certainly like debunks any like theory of evolution, like where like we at one point were primitive, unless primitive means more advanced, right? Like because we are de-evolving. And so like again, unless you're in an environment that's austere, the conditions are austere, and health, this impacts health and like physical, mental, spiritual health, and so these are also factors that contribute to people not living like optimal, ideal lives, right? Living at their fullest, however you want to like call it, because of stressors outside of their control or things outside of their control. Natural and what I believe to be like man-made events that are called natural events also impact people, wars, and more. And so once we realize like the layers and how like a lot of these like NASA organizations and these astronauts that we're revering, how they're actors and they're part of like specific groups like the Freemasons, and they're very like vocal about it. And by the way, they don't accept women in like the Freemasons never have and never will. And there's like offshots of these occult organizations and earlier ones as well, where they do allow women. And so yeah, I do believe that that is something that is interesting. Yeah, so any scientific evidence of gravity, there's none. This is a theory that's been refuted and debunked, and even like my basic like ability to explain things with my complex PTSD mind that's been constantly triggered, and going through like a pandemic, being in forced lockdown where I couldn't even leave my province for the first 2 years of the pandemic. Even if I wanted to, it was actually illegal for me when I wanted to sell and leave. And then when I was able to, there was literally Taggart Destruction Company damaged my home. So I had to take it off the market within weeks of putting it on, and then only able to put it back on like over a month ago now, still trying to sell. But they've also targeted my home whenever there's been viewings and no other homes like on anyways. And I have this proof, and so it hasn't been an easy time. And still trying to sell so that I can get away from this stuff. But yeah, even pressure without a container, there's no proof either that like for gases that they can expand or lift or lower, or whatever you want to call it, unless it's in a contained environment. And that's something that people are still trying to like say that this has been like no like we've proven that that's not true. Like that's not true. That they've proven that that's not true. Give me like anyone, give me proof that that gases can act the way they do, like raising or lowering, like they do, based on like their density like within this space and time that they occupy. Being that if the particles or if the mass is less dense than the space time that it's occupying, if it's less dense, then it raises, and if it's less dense, then if it's more dense, then it lowers. And yeah, so that's what we're calling gravity, and the fact that we're not like factoring in the fact that bees are not impacted by this, and dragonflies and mosquitoes, and by the way, mosquitoes at one point apparently didn't exist either and may have been introduced into the environment. That's all like interesting stuff, and why. Yeah, so show me the proof of this stuff. And there's no proof of the curvature. Again, I'll repeat that. There's been so many different people that have gone out on their own, even children, and debunked that. And does anyone know the calculations for the curvature of the Earth, where you see like where you're not supposed to see like the objects from distance anymore because like it goes over the Earth? By the way, that's a vanishing point, and that is the reason why things like disappear. Like first of all, it's whoever's viewing or perceiving the object, like it's our own limited capabilities within our own like construct. But also there's like humidity factors, like environmental factors that can also like reduce visibility, like fog and moisture, like whatever you want to call it. And but yeah, like these are being debunked, and it's also like, it's 8 inches per mile squared, just so you know. And so if I'm saying that to people, like I'm hoping that they're trying to verify this before saying no, the Earth is a globe, because I've already repeatedly, just like in less than 20 minutes, gave you so many different reasons why there's like people should be at least looking into this stuff more, because I'm coming in peace and I mean well. And when we see the lies for what they are, we can also see why like people were against mandates, why people were against forced inoculations, why people were saying that the Freedom Convoy was not like exactly like what we were told, or depending on where you are in the world, like Antifa or BLM, or like yeah, people are getting painted into these groups to again, as a distraction, unfortunately. And there are events that do come like fairly regularly, like on time, and so there are people that know about this, have this information, and repeatedly prepare for this throughout their lifetimes, and their children's lifetimes, and beyond that, and yeah, it would be nice if this information was given to everyone, so that like there was yeah, anyway, it's just awful to me that we're keeping this information from people. Like, even the reality of the world is just unfortunate that we're here. Yeah. So Hervé Riboni, time zones manipulated to hide flat Earth specifically too, right? So like we're going like with this 12-hour clock, whatever you want to call it, to this, but it's 24-hour clock. And a magnetic declination doesn't exist, and that's also proven by this guy. And I'll share a link to it because I forget what his name is. Oh, Henry something or other, brings on another good freaking guy. I forgot. Like, sorry, I got so many names in my head that I read that it's just really hard for me to remember. So I should take better notes. But yeah, he just like he's like on channels that show like a scientific experiments that and mathematics and stuff like that refute like what we're being told about, like even like navigation systems and GPSs and all this other stuff. So Henry Riboni, and I'll definitely be linking his stuff on my description box so that you can take a look at it. He has a lot of stuff out there. Yeah, he even shows how like on globe maps, when you lay it out, how even with like navigations, when there's issues like in certain areas where like the coast is further away, then on the globe, or what's being shown, and then the calculations like match up once you get on like location. This is also proof of a flat Earth, and he explains it a lot better than me. That's why I just click the links and just try to give people enough information to make them curious enough to want to look at this stuff, and go from there. Because even with the constellations, like I keep on repeating with December being like the month, like 22nd of December and onwards are Capricorns up until the 21st of January, and then there's the handover on the 22nd, and people that live like that count that as a cusp, or the 22nd as a cusp, and count themselves as Aquarius Capricorn or Sagittarius Capricorn, and it is what it is. I also look at ascending, like the ascending signs, the rising sign, and moon signs, and I'm really into the I'm very familiar with Vedic astrology, and they do go off of they're like 30 degrees before us, with how they calculate the like the cycles and stuff like that, and the constellations. But it's interesting to me that within Capricorn, like the Virgin or Virgo is always like, oh, I forget how he explained it, but the Virgin Mother birth, with how Capricorn, like when Capricorn is like when it's Capricorn time, like during the winter, especially in North America, you have like the Virgo that is like shining bright just to the I believe it's the east of Capricorn, and showing the birth of the sun in the morning, because you have that like the 3 days where the sun is dark, and like it's like the shortest days, and then like there's like the 3 days of darkness, or whatever you want to call it, and then on the 25th is when like the sun rises, or whatever you want to call it, or starts like the longer days again, and so even with Jesus, I do believe that there was a Jesus that existed, but I don't believe that's like the Christians, like a lot of Christians believe he was, because there's a lot of hidden symbology within like the Bibles, as well as I've said about the bull, and the bull being like the with the toroidal fields, and and the bullseye showing the center of the earth and the four sections, and yeah, there's just a lot with the symbology, but Santos Bonacci, I believe, is also the one that talks about like the constellations, and he gives a lot better examples and descriptions of the constellations and the movements, and how they paint a picture. They write a story. It's a story, and there's different ancient cultures throughout the world that describe the constellations differently based on like their own like interpretations or their own like perceived reality tunnels that they were experiencing within the areas that they were in, right? Because even like even within North America, like we have drastically different temperatures, right? Like within Canada compared to Mexico, and survivability within Canada, like at least with like the environmental factors is harder because things can't grow. In the winter we have like long winters. There's a lot of snow. It's very cold. I've done a lot of advanced winter warfare training, so I can attest to that. It's freaking cold. And then I'm like obviously even with like my hiking adventures, like I used to do that a lot in the winter as well, and even with my dogs, like I'm out with my dogs a lot. And yeah, whether it's cold or not. So this is a big one. Chinese corporations have been inside of Canada for many years now, and this has been what I've been repeatedly saying is a red flag because they don't follow the same rules and regulations or security stuff as we do. And even in the U.S., they have repeatedly refused to to have like specific corporations, Chinese corporations within their countries because of national security issues and the fact that there's like surveillance. There's like to a high degree like on, and so like and I don't want to cause any, again, like I want things to be peaceful, so I'm not trying to say this stuff to segregate certain groups and try to have any repercussions for people, right? Like we need to hold people accountable that are responsible for these things, right? For like committing these crimes against humanity or these security breaches that have been of concern now for many years. And even with the ArriveCan app, I was saying repeatedly, don't download it. It's very hackable. That's a lot of information. Like even within this province of Ontario, all of my health, not just my health information, is on the Ministry of Ontario Health website. But they also have, and they have no business to have this, but they also have people's salaries, my salary, like vehicle information, your dependents, if you've had any like diseases or like incurable or not. Believe blood types on there as well for like there's a lot of information that's given. And when you're traveling to other countries, if like example Russia and China, where we've had the Michaels and then other people, political prisoners, like this information is not something that should be so easily like available for people that it's not their business. Again, me with top secret government clearance and my contacts and connections and stuff like that, I need to be on an upgraded VPN. I can't even message people unless I disable certain security firewalls because I like it's blocked, right? And so this is so yeah, I wish people would pay attention to this stuff. And so there's people that have data on us, like immense data and surveillance and footage on us, and it's not even something that is illegal or something that they will be held accountable for. It's our Canadian people that looked at these contracts where there was clear breaches of security, and still allowed them to go through. And this has been shared. Luckily, now in the last 48 hours, the people that I shared it to have been shocked at the YouTube video. I'm going to share it with you as well. And these are people speaking about this in cabinet finally, and bringing in more light to the fact that we've had like Chinese police stations, we've had military bases, and still do. And then we also have corporations. We have them like even like I've shared like lithium mines, like even $250 million of a lithium mine again being sold in BC just recently, and all over Canada. And they don't have the same rules and regulations and policies and security like stuff as we do, and clearly look at their country, how they have overexhausted resources and caused a lot of pollution all over the world. If you want to look at the biggest contributor of pollution, I believe like China is like upwards of like 70 or 80%. Don't quote me on that, of like of the pollution they're responsible for, right? And so like why are we not looking at the stuff with the anyway, so this is why I'm tense a lot, and I don't mean to be, and this is why I'm saying as soon as I'm able to like leave like the environment that has now become toxic to me, unfortunately, because of my government and because of companies that are exploiting things like pandemics, like Taggart Company, for example. Like I've shared multiple videos to their entire team and beyond, like even cabinet members, how we've had mud floods and liquefaction events throughout Canadian history, like even in the early 1900s, early 1800s, like the 1600s and beyond, and this is all wiped away, and it makes no sense, right? Where we're looking at old maps and diagrams with, oh sorry, I had chew in my mouth the entire time. I'll take it out. Where we've had like diagrams and old maps that are all archived now and or like lost in fires. Like we saw like multiple buildings, and then all of a sudden like newer maps, like they're not, they don't exist, but like these very large, like the parliamentary buildings and the library and all that stuff, these are all things that obviously lasted. And the Rideau Canal too, by the way, like it's impossible that it was made in the time frame that it was made, with like the basic and primitive materials and resources that were on hand during these certain periods where there was massive like wipeouts of entire civilizations, like again even in the Ottawa area, but also I've shown examples of Montreal and New Brunswick as well, in the Miramichi area, and it's happened in other areas. But because of this being my area and the blasting happening on bedrock right outside my house on a heritage site, like I'm saying, like red alert, so yeah, so these mud flood and liquefaction events and sinkhole events, I've shared this information, has been caused by blasting and drilling. And so like people that have no idea, right? So like when you think that the earth is a globe, and when you think that there's like molten lava and like there's like just like endless amounts of that you think that like that the soil is protected, it's softer, it's not like people think. And these events again like can trigger any freaking moment now, and I don't mean to alarm people, but because Taggart and Kavanagh and Mattamy and Minto, like these like real estate and destruction company and landfill companies, because they went on overdrive over the pandemic, they've shredded millions of trees that were healthy, and then they were billing us for 6 times the amount for lumber while we were locked down. People like me forced to listen to them blasting outside our homes for 4 years, but like now again, like a year nonstop, like right behind my home. But it's all over the city, and then it's beyond too. So I even go like an hour east, west, north, or south, which I've done, and then beyond, and I explore. And again, even like national parks are being taken over, recreational area, hiking spots, and land that should be accessible to people, and it's because of needless exploitation, and they're blasting through bedrock. That there's a reason why these stone structures survived when like a lot of different places like were lost in fires and or these like EMP type events and these mud floods, and we're saying that like with all these buildings and all these like advanced buildings and stuff like that this was built by like a couple hundred like men that were living like no women around, and or you know the filles de roi or the others brought in. Oh, you guys. And no, and largely too, when people were brought back into these areas after they were wiped out, it was like oftentimes children, and yeah, just like a small amount of people that are brought in, and then a workforce, like a labor force. Again, even the children being the labor force, and it's not like again like it's because we evolved from primitive times to now, and now we're more modern and advanced. No, we've been more advanced and more modern, and lived with like in more harmony than like in so many different periods. And even when I was saying with Ptolemy, like for like 1500 years or more, like people did teach the stuff that I'm trying to share with people, right? And there's other people that are trying to share this information too, and again getting censored and blacklisted and all this other stuff. But it blows my mind that we're allowing this stuff to happen, because like yeah. And so there are periods too within Canada where we've had civilizations where there was like a couple million people in areas, and then what happened to these people when within like a year or two, afterwards, pictures being shown, where like these where there's millions of homes or at least thousands or hundreds of thousands of homes, and then these castles or these big buildings, and if you look beyond, and there's no one in these cities. They're ghost cities, and this is and I've shared this information with people as well, and then again, like digging out these buildings or digging under, you see that it's been repeatedly happened when we don't learn from this stuff. And so yeah, like right now we have like over 1 million people within the Ottawa area, and so if this is something that would impact like the same like area, then there's even times with great floods where it was so fast they were saying that people were not even with horse and buggies able to outrun, animals were not able to outrun, and a lot of people that survived, it was because they were in water and they were sharing the water with animals, and while the cities were burning around them, and many accounts of this as well. So clearly a lot more people that have died because of these man-made events, and because again, because of the accountability piece and the cover-ups and the people with the money, again, the realty, construction, destruction companies, they're all also like, they have lawyers, and even lawyers are part of like the realty, and so this is why, like, I wish that people would pay more attention to what's going on in Ottawa and in this area, because not only do they impact like a lot of the stuff that's implemented within the entire country, but we're also like we're also escalating like another event to happen, possibly that again, that doesn't fare well for the current citizens, right? And I'll share more information on that, but even what's going on in Pakistan and stuff like that with the mud floods in China, I've shared this information as well, and I would urge people to take a look at the companies, the construction or blasting companies like that are in certain areas, how they impacted the underground with the vibrations and the pressure and stuff like that, and have tipped off these things, but even trying to get cops, to like do something about this, and giving them the actual freaking proof has been like again, I'm still like in my freaking kitchen before 7 a.m. trying to get a video out to get other people like aware. I also emailed all the levels of cabinet yesterday with this information, tried to explain it, and I'm hoping it's gonna go somewhere at some point, because like so far I get the automatic receipts acknowledgements, but I don't get any responses back, and yeah, there's a lot of corporations that have taken over Canada and the U.S., and even another $2 trillion within the U.S. went missing again. So within a month, $2 trillion at two different times, that's a lot of money, and that would end the poverty issues. That would give like every single like citizen within the U.S. like a living wage, and like there's so much that could be solved. And this and so like, where is this money going? We really need to look at this. Like, how do you lose that money? When I've said before, like, people were part of a freedom convoy that donated $20 or $100 like I did, we're flagged, and it's just so disgusting to me that we, anyway, where was I going with this? Norsat and Sinclair, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, so corporations. Oh, so like, so now too, Jimmy Dore was just saying how like $500 billion going, like the U.S. is giving for defense budgeting again, which is how, again, like I've been saying, like it's a military pharmaceutical industrial complex that's running Canada and the U.S., and it's corporations that aren't even owned by Canadians. And I want to reiterate this, like, we need to get on top of this. And did any cabinet members go to that climate conference in Montreal that happened on the weekend? I don't know. They haven't discussed anything about it, but there's a whole lot of people that weren't Canadian that were part of that freaking conference, and it's a whole lot of people that I think that, should not be advising us on anything, because who are they to do that when, look at their mess. And there's ways out of what we're going through, and the printing of the money and the stuff that we've been doing, and also losing billions of dollars, like that doesn't happen, right? Like, and when I've managed a multi-million-dollar budget within the special forces, like with the biggest budget within, and was able to manage and mitigate the other budgets because of that flexibility, like I can't understand how like a finance minister can even say that out loud, because it's almost insulting, because there's a lot of people that have like a background in finance to varying degrees. Obviously, people that have it like more so than me, like even like procurement and beyond, and saying the exact same things, like this doesn't happen, right? And so it's going somewhere. It's going to people that it shouldn't be going to, and it's not going towards Canada's resources and development and progress and innovation and education and things like that, where it should be going, and into an actual healthcare system, not a sick care system that's exploiting and inoculating people. And we're basically now we're just clients. And that's why we need to be less dependent on the government, not more. And now the government has increased in size and control over the pandemic, and public and private sector obviously completely impacted. And because I was working with federal contracts, I'm still trying to do the hostile environment awareness training piece and standing rapid deployment team piece stuff and the analytical stuff, because I've said to in my email, I might read that out, but again, not a crazy email, but I was giving examples of how people like me have repeatedly been predicting like events and or calling out like misinformation, blatant lies from people within our own government that have incited violence, and that they even created the chaos. And then the solution, you can't do that, right? Especially when people die because of this, and or people get harmed because of this. And like I repeatedly said as well, this stuff, I still need to be current on on the stuff that I provide, so that like if and when I'm back on the contract, so that I'm giving like obviously relevant information, and obviously this stuff matters to me, and it should matter to a lot of people, because they were even talking about Article 6, like I said last month, because of what I believe to be a planned missile attack that actually did kill people in Poland, that they're now alleging was a stray missile, and it was that the debris that had killed these people. And then I had even brought up the example too about how like the drone strike in Afghanistan during the pullout killed innocent civilians, and people were lying. Biden and like people were actually lying about that as well. And it was like people like me saying no, that's not true, and then sharing the children and the adults that were needlessly killed, and then that lied about, and then even with your Ukrainian like spokesperson, like how she was fired last April, in the last April, because she was lying about crimes against humanity that the Russians were allegedly committing against Ukrainians. It was in fact the opposite of for the reports that I was getting on Telegram and Signal, and I was sharing that information, and no one was listening to this stuff. But again, there was people, there are people that have died and or have gone over there repeatedly and just got back, and we're fighting because I'm saying that like things here are getting worse because of stuff like that, and people getting duped and tricked and distracted into that stuff that is not profiting us. So yeah, I don't know. So even with with the inflating the markets, I don't know how people are not aware of this stuff, because they believe that people can be reliable and trustworthy, and that there's checks and balances, and there's not, right? So I know this personally, and I know this for a fact, and I can prove this again to government if and when needed. But that people can give $5,000 of a down payment on any of these homes that Mattamy and Minto and these Taggart realty companies, by the way, are mass producing within the Ottawa area. This is why I think the social housing and how they're gonna somehow get involved with government, and how it's gonna be the government's gonna own through with these companies though, with their share and their buybacks or whatever you want to call it, their stakes. And then it's going to be where we're all going to be renters, and we're never going to be able to own our homes again. And so again, this is I'm begging people, because in green space areas and heritage sites and parks and places that shouldn't be touched, they have already touched, and it's been throughout the Ottawa area and beyond. They're paying, people that I know personally, paying $5,000 to a mortgage lender, not through a bank. And these are friends and contacts. I could have done the same exact thing, but I refuse to do stuff like that. And maybe I'm a sucker for it, but it is what it is. I don't want to be part of the problem that I'm literally trying to speak out on. So it would be a bit hypocritical of me as well. But don't think I haven't thought about it. But for a second. But yeah, taking over dog trails as well within the area, these, and paying $5,000 down just to get the building started and in all of these areas, and then within 6 months to a year, they because again they're also inflating the market when it suits them. Then they're also making money off it when they go to when it's built. They have to pay, I think, another $15,000 down within a year. They have a whole year to pay, again, just $15,000 on a home that within the year before it's even built, they were making $100,000 on. And so this was what was inflating the market in the area while we were locked down and forced to people like me not able to work, and then the gyms closed, restaurants closed, all this stuff, and then these people were still right beside our freaking children and elderly and our animals and us, working from home, school from home, and they're still doing it. This is why I'm frustrated, but and we were forced to endure the constant and chronic, excessive, needless noise that they're still doing, and no one's doing anything about it. So it's impacted my schooling. I fourth year cognitive science degree. It's impacted so many other people's work and schooling, and me not being able to volunteer at the Ottawa Mission. Right, I was doing that for many years, and I was a facilitator through Discovery U. and that's giving people a better resume, and having these like critical thinking discussions, and teaching courses, and going over questions, and things like that. And so they're not helping people in the community at all, and they've also forced out veterans that were luckily, they didn't get any damage last year, so they put their houses on the market and sold. But there's many people within the area that it's been months that we've been trying to sell, and lowering the price and lowering the price, and it's like even $100,000 less than it was last year when they were manipulating the market. And this is also stuff that like the government needs to get more involved in, but like not to like take it over or anything like that, but like to like charge people, to fine people, to jail people, and and because like this is the stuff that we shouldn't be allowing to happen. But when most people can't even afford, like we're like, these people are the ones that are impacting the middle class. And then once they've exploited us enough and overexhausted our resources, like if things happen like mud floods or liquefaction events or sinkholes in the process, they don't care. And they also work with insurance companies, and people have said too that, oh, insurance companies, like, what do they have to profit? Yes, there's advantages to insurance companies, but not only do they also build in like areas that are destabilized, and or there's like natural and or man-made events. Well, there are natural events that do happen that obviously like cause a lot of destruction and damage, but there's also what we're calling natural events that were tipped off by man-made events, and then people like not cluing in as to why. And when you shred trees, like again, like I'll share the the video on the petrified organisms as well, and how trees play like they are the biggest role within this living organism of a multidimensional reality we're experiencing. And yeah, so I'm hoping that we get on that a little bit more seriously, because like if people like if anything, like not the fact that they've been like directly harassing a female combat arms veteran who's buried people overseas, and then here and on a regular basis having to deal with like the shitty reality of the world, because I'm on like lower means and higher means, and like none of the news I get is positive. We're not getting like, oh, there's world peace. Like, like I'm getting a lot of information about like whether it be like World War III back on the table, or like freaking nuke stuff back on the table, or on the table, or like stuff within the Middle East again, like escalating, or or natural events that could like possibly be tipped off by man-made events, like even in my own city. Like it's been very stressful, and I'm just really hoping that we take a look at this stuff. And yeah. Well, I was going to get into a very interesting thing. Like there was a study that was done. No, actually I won't say there was a study that was done, because I don't have it with me, so I won't even bring this point up until I get more research on it. Okay, so I was listening to Archaics, and who I highly recommend as well, and he was talking about weather, and how it's like even weathermen, they're not able to, like, there's not the ability to like forecast or predict like whether like we believe, and oftentimes they're wrong, and I agreed with that, because I've even said myself that like things are heavily dependent on like wind direction and temperature, and I made notes, but yeah. And so like when you look like, so if the wind is traveling like a certain like a certain direction, then that eventually it's going to hit like from like whatever region, like you want to look at where the wind is traveling, that you'll know that within an hour or 2 hours or whatever, that it's going to hit your area, right? And so oftentimes too, with my family in Montreal, like sometimes rainstorms or snowstorms will hit me first, and then it'll head their way, or vice versa, right? And we like let each other know, right? This is not us being weather people, but it's just being able to predict certain like weather patterns, and depending on the temperature, that this can also like elicit snow or hail or rain in the process. And there's like, again, I would really take a look at, if people are interested, the wind directions throughout the world, and then also the current flows throughout the world too, and just see how they're very much like yeah, it's very interesting stuff. And you can predict a lot more based off of knowing this information too, right? Like, so like knowing that with like throughout Florida, or the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico up to the Baltics, that there's a current that goes. And then even in older books with the Smoky God, where like also the like these people from Norway they like a man and his son, they traveled to the center of the earth, and they did so by following like a current or a flow that led them there, and then there was one that led them out after a year or whatever it was when they decided to eventually leave this place, this hidden land with these giants and other beings that were more advanced and evolved and seemed to have like more fun than what we're having here. And even when they saw like this huge boat with all these people in, it was like a cruise ship. They were all singing and dancing, and this is stuff that is still done in a lot of different societies as well, and but not so much in North America anymore. Like we don't have like singing groups or even choirs really anymore. And I was part of the choir when I was in RMC as well. But yeah, $500 freaking defense budget. So 120 decibels. That's the sound of a thunderclap. And so 120, 201, 102, this is like a significant gematria number that I've talked about before. And so I'm wondering if there's also like that, if that's another reason why they use that number, because there's even like the thunderbolt that's on like a lot of the different like occult, like even on hieroglyphs and ancient scripts and texts and stuff like that, but also like Netflix and movies and mainstream stuff too, even with Harry Potter with the thunderbolt. Like I'm wondering if there's like it's owed to that and the correlation with that, and even with Smokey too. Like I've showed that my dog, he has a lightning bolt on his chest. It's so cool, and yeah, it's all interesting. But on that, like that's a thunderclap, and that's also like excessive damage to the eardrums, and noise can like heavily impact people, right? Like noise kills like at high levels, clearly. And this is why, like I also talk about these machines. This is beyond 85 decibels, which is actually like the threshold where pain can be incurred for adults. For children and for animals, I'll reiterate, it's even lower. And so when cranes that have tracks on them that are larger than tanks are within literally like 5 meters from homes, and the whistle blasts the beep 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 beep, like when these are people that are inside vehicles and no one's walking the site, and by the way, these vehicles are not even maintained, so the rust on these tracks and stuff like that, like even without the rust, we hear these vehicles coming, right? Like you can hear these vehicles all coming. I can hear a vehicle coming down the road. You don't need to have these whistles chronically on these vehicles when people again are working from home still, because of the freaking mandates and all like the fear mongering that's going on in the news even now with RSV and with the flu and with with more like MERS and like people talking about like deadlier strains and how like it's going to be impacting like the younger generation, like the children and younger adults more. And again, I'm saying again that this is like just to cover up vaccine injuries, just like last year when I was saying that as soon as like they approve this or authorize this within Canada for children, which they did last like end of November, early December, I believe. Omicron, when did it come out? Within a week of that. And I said that on a whiteboard, and I can prove that, and I have witnesses, and I was saying that is to cover up any kind of vaccine injuries. I said within a month, I'm like, within a week, but I said within a month there's going to be a new variant, and we've never even isolated the virus enough to even, we haven't proved that the variants exist. And so with germ theory as well, this is really frustrating how even like what we're calling experts, how they're even lying about like the freaking like anatomy, right? And how should this be shocking to people when we're also like rewriting what women are, like definition of women, and even the Webster's dictionary, like and even like the figure skating community within Canada, like now wiping away like men and like male and female from like the terminology and for like any advertisements or anything. And so, come on, people. And there's been I don't know. Twitch, obviously, they're saying committed suicide. Rest in peace, 40 years old, and he had a family. And this is where, like, within just certain groups, like, did he actually commit suicide? Is he now, in another, like, underground area that, like other people allegedly go to as well, if they prove themselves worthy enough? Or was he just used enough where he's now, like, again, just like a sacrificial lamb, or what do you want to call it, unfortunately, which also happens, and which I proved happened at Anhesh as well, possibly happened at Anhesh as well over the summer. And so there's underground facilities all over the world. There's like hundreds of millions of people that could live underground, like in the U.S. alone, and Canada as well. We have underground facilities, and it's all over the world. And there's even been like these like ant colony caves systems or tunneling systems that have been shown. And the more we dig and the more we explore and go beyond our metaverse and plugged in, then the more we'll see this stuff and see what people are actually doing. And so there are obviously families and people that are within these underground like civilization societies to maintain the land that's there and the property that's there, because even a vehicle, if you don't run it, or if you don't like keep your house maintained, like that's why I also can't flee for extended periods of time, because I live alone. And so like things can happen, right? Like even if I go, especially in the winter, if anything happens to like the furnace, for example, and I'm not here, pipes can burst and break, and there could be like flooding that happens during the winter, and a lot of other things, right? Or if the furnace breaks, there's so much other damage that can happen as well. And yeah, so like there's like a whole bunch of different factors why like these places need to be maintained. And so there are people that are already living in these areas that may or may not get wiped out from people that are going to be trying to go in once the stuff like starts escalating even further, because this is not going to get better until we start paying attention and actually like getting on board that this stuff is actually happening. Because in 2040 there's like a possible like an event that's going to happen somewhere in the world that's going to involve like projections and real stuff like in the sky and coming out of the water and stuff like that, that's going to like impact like a large portion of the population, and then an even bigger one possibly happening in 2046. And there's just too many, not YouTube videos, but there's too many accounts of this within a whole bunch of different texts and literature and ancient hieroglyphs and stuff like that in so many different areas that show this. And then how like after these like natural or man-made events happen, how like areas are covered over or wiped away, and then within years, like people coming in to like as a workforce labor party or whatever you want to call it, and then to rebuild, and then given like a different narrative or a false narrative of the world. And yeah, it's really just like it's child abuse also. And so like I just like I just it's abuse. And one of my titles of a video I had last year was that our government is abusing us, and I stand by that. I don't mean like the people that I work with on a regular basis. Well, I mean, I have been ghosted and blacklisted, and it is what it is. But if and when our government and people that are supposed to know better, once they start actually looking at this information and sharing this information, then it's going to be a turnaround, right? So then like a lot of the people within my network or community and beyond, then this is going to be stuff that's going to significantly help them as well, and like within their own job, but also within their own family networks, and then within our communities, right? And then we can again work as a whole, and then come up with better plans for Canada to move out of like this stuff. Because like I've said, with again being infiltrated by countries, corporations that do not remotely have our best interest at heart at all. They're looking at like the dollar bill, even with WEF and the UN stuff like that. They're looking at that money, and even on like any kind of like preparedness plans and stuff like that for pandemic response or anything. Even with the Bill and Gates like that tabletop that they were doing again, just like not even a month ago. They really care more about money and profit than they do about human life. And so this should be something that is a red flag for people. And it's getting close to 7 o'clock in the morning, and they usually start just before, and it is what it is. So I will leave it at that, and then I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.